this has caused for local hauliers and local businesses. Well, Graham Pask is the South East Area Manager for the Road Haulage Association, covering Sussex, Surrey and Kent, and joins us this morning. Graham, thank you for being here. So how was the weekend then for hauliers, and what's it looking like now?
Yeah, good morning, Anna.
Morning.
It hasn't been that bad over the weekend, to be honest. I mean, the backlogs have pretty much cleared over the weekend. But disappointingly, our industry has suffered over the last couple of years with Brexit and the delays down there. And almost just when we're getting on top of things and things seem to be flowing reasonably well, we're hit again with this, and it's going to cause more delays again. And of course, the problem is it's the costs that are being inflicted on the operators here in the southeast and across the whole of the country, the UK operators, have got to be passed on to somebody. And we're already struggling with inflation in this country. Now, the Dover Straits are the lifeblood of the UK. We're not a nation of manufacturers. Most of the goods we use, we import. And any more delays of goods coming to the UK, when you consider that 90% of the operators crossing the channel aren't even UK hauliers, they're European hauliers. But those costs are going to affect them as badly as the UK hauliers. And they're going to be passed on. So it is a disappointment. And worryingly, as I say, the Dover Straits are the lifeblood of the UK. And it appears that in a boardroom the other side of the world, somebody's making a decision just to cut it off overnight. And for British business, that is a major concern. And the government needs to look at this and maybe step in some way. I don't know how it's going to happen, and it won't be quick. But we cannot be held to ransom by companies across the world on something so important as the Dover Strait crossings, because this country needs that Dover Strait and it needs it to flow.
Yes, indeed. And we know that P&O are out of action for the rest of the week, don't we? So how will it work going forward, do you think?
Well, I mean, with the other ferry companies, DFDS and Irish Ferries, they're obviously running at full capacity,
Yes.
and the train as well is very busy. I assume that there's going to be increased delays during the week. I mean, always a Thursday is a bad day with Dover TAP being deployed, because there's always a lot of traffic going back out of the UK on a Thursday. So the peak period is going to be a problem. How bad that gets, it's hard to say. Whether some people actually delay coming over to the UK and waiting to see if we get some sort of resolution with P&O, if the ferries are back on stream again. But obviously, as Darren was saying, he doesn't want that. He wants our workforce to get back on the boats. Well, that's going to take even longer if that does happen. But we just have to keep our fingers crossed, and that maybe that can be resolved for the sake of the UK employment. But I think it's going to be a tricky couple of weeks. Things will slow down, but hopefully the slack will be taken up. Now people know what's going on. A lot of operators are moving further down the coast to the Havre, Dieppe, to try and get across to the UK and try and spread the load. Hopefully that will work.
Do you think some people put off, sending hauliers to Dover because of the news? So there might be a bit of a delay.
Yeah, I think they will. I mean, the whole of Europe is struggling with drivers. It's not just the UK.
Yeah.
And if you're going to say to a driver, whatever country he's from in Europe, your next job is going to go to the UK, and he knows the situation of waiting for hours and hours and end to get across, both getting into the UK and getting back out again, he's going to turn and say, do you know what? No, thanks. They've got other options and better options. And that's the problem. You read all sorts of stories in Finland, they're laying off drivers because of the price of fuel. It's across the whole of Europe. So we really have to resolve this situation as quickly as possible and make it attractive for people to come backwards and forwards, because the workforce have a choice these days. They're not forced into doing it. They have a choice.
Yeah.
And we really need to be careful that our lifeline with Europe isn't cut off, isn't strangulated. So we need that to get sorted.
And you must be thinking, whatever next? I mean, it's been so difficult, hasn't it, for your industry? The uncertainty surrounding Brexit, followed by the pandemic. And, now we've got problems with fuel being so expensive and this. And, it seems like, one thing after another, doesn't it, Graham?
Yes, it is, Anna. I mean, as I said before, we were just getting used to it. Not just the haulers getting used to it, but exporters and even the customs staff getting used to it. Everybody's been struggling for the past year with all this documentation. because there is so much to it. It is so complicated. And I say the frustrating thing is where people are a lot happier the way it is. It's more or less
Yeah.
working.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, these delays are thrown into the mix. It's not a great situation.
It is. And a final point before you go, Graham, but there are sort of rumours afoot on the front pages this morning that the Chancellor may cut fuel duty in his spring statement. Would that help your industry?
Yes, it helped the industry. I mean, it helps everybody. And that's the important thing. It's not just the hauliers. We need that support in the immediate term because it's affecting people right now. But long term, the price increases affect us all. It affects the consumer. And so we need that to filter back into the greater nation, if you like. But short term, hauliers are struggling. It's the outlay. I mean, some of these guys are operating with 30-day, 60-day, and even 90-day payments. But fuel has to get paid weekly.
Yes.
And these £1,000 a week per truck in some cases. So it's an awful lot of money to outlay. You're running 50 vehicles. It's an awful lot of money to outlay and then having to wait such a long time to get your money back in again. That's not an unusual scenario where people get paid, in those sort of terms. But in this industry, the outlay is phenomenal, and waiting for that money to come back in, the cash flow is causing a lot of smaller companies and larger companies a big issue.
Indeed. On that point, Graham, listen, thank you for being with us this morning. Do keep in touch and let us know how the situation goes.